The very first question I want to get into is the fact that BTC, the company that's been implicated in that fraud, has come out and said that they are shocked as the public of the news. And this really translates to the fact that there's really no regulation in the cryptocurrency space.
Yes, absolutely. The cryptocurrency space is really operating between the cracks of all the various different legislations we have in place to protect consumers from scams in the formal financial industry. So it's really getting to a point where unless the crypto economy starts regulating itself, governments are going to step in pretty fast to put an end to the party.
And how do they do that? How do they start to regulate? I mean, we've heard news from various countries of them attempting to do so, but really, how do we get this done?
Well, there's different sides to it because your cryptocurrencies are made up of more than just Bitcoin, for example, which is a currency. Now, regulating that would be quite difficult because of the way the private and public keys work. Now, it's not impossible for a government or a SARS-type institution to get hold of that information to find out who really is behind those various different crypto wallets. But it is tedious and time-consuming, and just for the fact that there are so many different cryptocurrencies out there, people can move their money between those currencies. But that's looking at just from a currency point of view. When you start getting into your sort of companies like your BTC Globals or even your ICOs, the companies that are listing on stock, basically on this virtual stock exchange, it's completely unregulated. There are things that regulators can do to put an end to this. Simply by categorizing them as a type of security and by bringing it into the financial fold, they'll be able to take control of that and the sort of promises and claims that people are making. Because at the moment, people in that BTC scam, they were being promised 50% returns a month. Now, you'd hope that sensible adults would see that and say,
in a tough environment, Bronwyn, no one sees that it's too good to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd hope that adults are able to make those sort of good judgment calls for themselves. But if they don't, well, these sort of things happen. It gets wind of authorities, and then regulation does start coming to crack down on this. So those sort of claims would absolutely never be able to be made by a formal financial institution. And I also think that your formal institutions, as they start getting involved in this market themselves, with players like Goldman Sachs now setting up their own crypto trading desks, they're going to insist that these incumbents into the market are regulated to the same extent that they are, because they really are playing in the same space. They're promising things to consumers that are delivering direct financial returns.
No, absolutely. And I mean, it's not just about buying and selling. I think the main driver of the fraud was the opportunity to invest.
Yes.
Talk us through the investment opportunities that exist within cryptocurrency.
Well, just like any other sort of thing in the world, you can securitize it, you can trade on it. I mean, sports betting is pretty much the same thing when you get down to it. You're betting on whether one outcome or another outcome is going to come into fruition. So it's very easy using your instruments like your CFDs and your leverage trading platforms to sort of start promising people things on your cryptocurrencies. And especially since cryptocurrencies are so volatile, it's a dream for traders. So if you know what you're doing, you've been playing in the Forex space or the CFD space for some time, you're at a distinct advantage to the ignorant consumer. And now you get to play in a game where you're the only person that knows the rules. So people that come with a trading background really do have the temptation to take advantage of ignorant consumers that are just being seduced by the gains that they've heard that other people have made with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
And I suppose the entrance of monitoring and evaluation methods would help to regulate those traders who are looking to take a little bit of advantage.
Yes, absolutely. And even your bodies like your advertising standards authority could get involved, because the sort of claims they're making wouldn't fly with any sort of consumer product. I mean, you can't say anything you like, even if you're selling hair shampoo. You can't just put any label you like on the can. You have to back it up somehow. But as usual, regulation lags the markets, and because at the moment this innovation is in a grey area in the law, there's always going to be people that take advantage of it. That's not to say they're not legitimate players in the space, but there's definitely some black hats operating.
Yeah, and I was telling you earlier that I read an interesting article that cryptocurrency is a victim of its own success. You know, you mentioned that it's trying to be everything to anyone, and it just can't.
No, it just can't. Like the grand vision, it's a libertarian ideal. It's a one world currency out of the hands of the tax authorities. and it can be great for peer-to-peer transactions. That's all true. But of course, it's now also trying to be a store of value and a way of making money from trading too. So it's trying to fulfill all these functions that current money and the current financial institutions and financial services offer to people. But it really can't fulfill all of those things at this point in time. Even from a pure transactory basis, it's more expensive. It's getting more expensive due to the high mining costs from your crypto mining programs that have to run to actually process these transactions. It's still slower than your formal payments, so your Visa can process exponentially more transactions than your current crypto-based blockchains can. And hopefully they'll work out those bugs and can become a great opportunity for consumers, especially people living in countries that have unstable monetary situations like our neighbor Zimbabwe. If they were able to use Bitcoin as an alternative to the dollar or to their local currency, that's got some real benefits for consumers. But when you start layering on top of this transactional process, trying to make it into a store of value, trying to make it into something that's exciting to trade, that's when all these temptations creep in to take advantage of the system and to try and make it into something that essentially it was not supposed to be when it was designed.
And we did discuss that cryptocurrency is very volatile.
Yes.
But with the idea that you mentioned that it can become, a global currency, in the near future, is there a way we could stabilize the value? Because that's one thing that prevents that, is that the value is up and down.
Yes, and it's not only its own value, and that value, it's very hard to control. There's no reserve bank behind it that's fixing those prices, that's pegging that exchange rate. It's entirely user-driven, which is great, once again, if you're a libertarian, but it also doesn't make sense then to use it as to settle large accounts, because if you're paying for something today, you want to know that the amount you're paying is the value of the good you're receiving tomorrow. So that's a whole lot of challenges. And then once again, coming back to being a victim of its own success, you've got the complete proliferation of copycat currencies. So even if you manage to stabilize one, there's another one popping up that's even more volatile than the last one. These sort of ICOs and sort of other crypto projects tend to have a lifespan of less than a year. And these are the ones that are funded, fully funded by very optimistic, should we say, investors.
And wealthy investors, of course.
Yes, but not even wealthy ones. If you look at the BTC Global scam, unfortunately, these are people that are putting their pension money into it. These are people that are domestic workers that have been saving and putting their salaries into these programs, maxing out their credit cards. I know a few people who simply didn't have money to invest in these projects, were tempted by the returns that they were being told they could achieve. They saw a little bit of success. If they got in before around about November last year, they might have actually made a little bit of money by investing in Bitcoin, but a month or so later, they've just lost all that money. They've got no way to recoup those costs.
Unbelievable times we're living in. Bronwyn, thank you so much for your insights. I've been speaking there to Bronwyn Williams, I'm going to get this right, Trend Translator and Future Finance Specialist at Flux Trends.